Hi everybody, I'm Dominic from Ask Me DIY. And this video is a response to my highly rated viewed how to install a sub panel, which in that video shows you how to install the sub panel, but not what to do afterwards. So this whole video, there's a sub panel already installed, wired and everything. So I'm just going to go over all the circuits and how I installed mine in my shop of all my equipment. That's, got 220, we got 110. So let's get into that. I'm going to show you how I did it. All right, check it out. Over here I started at the end of the circuit here is our 120 volt outlet to another 120 volt outlet to another one, which I wired a light to it under my bench, and of course my saw, and under here, which you can't see I guess from that shot, is my table saw. Okay, no criticizing on my shop being dirty, I know it's winter, okay, and then so forth. So if you look up over here, we have all our conduit running to a 220 to another 220. So, okay, let's go. Okay, check it out. From our main panel, from our, that breaker that we installed for our sub panel, off of that we have our two hots, if you remember. Now going here to our sub panel, our two hots, we have our neutral tied to our neutral bus bar, and the ground, as you can see, going to our grounding bus bar. Okay? Now, let's go over the circuits. Here is our 20 amp 120 volt breaker. That's going to our black wire here, which is running into our conduit. Coming out of that, we would have our ground and then our neutral, because I only have one 120 circuit. Otherwise, I would have more of those. The rest of them are 220. Our 220, you can see, we have our red and our black, which is going, to our outlets. And unfortunately, I can't show you the outlets because they're all installed, but this video should help you out a great deal. Then from there, we have our ground coming to all that. So you can see another one. This one's going here. You can actually see this one a little bit better if you can pan out on the video here. We have our two hots, and then we have our ground going to our ground bus bar. So if you look down here, here we go to our short piece of conduit, to our 220 outlet, and this is all 20 amp, by the way. That's why the wire is not as beefy as the other ones. And then we have another 220. So like this one here is for our planer. This one here would be for our 220 vac system, which you see right here. And then I have my 220 table saw. Now, of course, I'm not going to be using all these at once, so again, in response to many questions, if we were going to use all these at once, all these pieces of equipment, now these are 20 amp, 20 amp, 20 amp, which of course is 60 amps, but not each piece of equipment is going to be pulling 20 amps, or could be close to it. So it's something you do want to pay attention to when you're designing your sub panel and sizing the proper size wire. Very, very important, but chances are you're not going to have them all on at once, so that's okay too. Okay. Another thing, a lot of people ask me, what size wire do I run from the main panel to the sub panel? Well, honestly, it's all relative to how far your sub panel is from your main panel. This one here is probably about 50 feet because it's way on the other side of the house, or actually probably 75 feet. To here. So, and how big of a sub panel? Now, this sub panel was much bigger and had a lot bigger equipment and stuff like that. Of course, that breaker in the main panel would have to be a higher rating. The wire would have to be a higher rating. But then again, if I shortened everything up, though, it was only the panel was, say, right next to my main panel, well, then we don't have to go as thick of a wire, maybe. It all depends. So it's the math that you really need to do, the best way to do it, because if you're gonna install a sub panel, you got to get it inspected by the electrical inspector. Don't think you can not get it inspected by the electrical inspector, because one, if you go to sell the house, it's gonna be whoa, big flags, and you have to change things and whatever, and God forbid you have a fire in the house and not even related to your sub panel that you put in. Chances are the insurance company's gonna say no good. It was done illegally. Okay, so keep that in mind. I don't know what else I can show you here. Okay, yeah, one more thing. Now, if you notice, I have we have our two hots and we have our ground, our neutral, and we have our ground. But what you don't notice is another ground wire, which say would be a number 8 bare stranded wire, going to our grounding rod, you know, pushing the ground 8 feet long. If you ever seen them things, they're freaking long as hell. Well, this garage is attached to the house, so we don't need a separate grounding rod. But if the house was separated, whatever building you were going to, a shed, whatever it may be, if it's disconnected from the house, yes, then you need a grounding rod, which you would put the wire in order to attach it to your grounding rod, your grounding bus bar. I hope I answered all the questions. I'm kind of thinking, Anyway, it should help you. I hope you learned how to do it a little bit better, answer some questions.